First full week, how have you found it, Mark?
Yeah, been good. Yeah, it was a little bit difficult with the pitches initially. Certainly, when I arrived last week, the only thing available was the 4G because clearly there's been a lot of rain and we're by a river, so there's some problems with the pitches. But they seem to have resolved themselves. We've had a couple of good days on the grass, which was important, and some good work put into the guys. I'm pleased with what I've seen. Good enthusiasm for the work as well, and no little qualities. So looking forward to the weekend now.
Good stuff. It's we touched on the occasion, didn't we, on Saturday? But ultimately, results are results. What have you, the days off that Mansfield game? What have you taken from that, and what have you worked on going into Swindon?
Well, I think I mentioned before the game that we weren't going to change things radically overnight because that wouldn't make sense, and it wouldn't have been fair to the guys either because they've been used to playing possibly in a different way to how I imagine us to play maybe in 12 months' time. So we'll get there in good time, but it's not going to happen overnight. So we've just started to introduce a few ideas in terms of what we do in certain situations to enable us to maybe retain the ball a little bit better than we have done, and certainly at the weekend at times the ball was changing hands a little bit too readily for my liking, so when that happens you don't have the control that you need. So we'll try and improve that aspect of our play, and that will improve as we work together, and repetition of the work that we do in training obviously will start to impact, and then we'll start to improve hopefully.
Asides like Mansfield and like with the work that Nigel's done at Mansfield, is that almost like a benchmark for you going forward to what you want to do here?
Well, it's like anything. Managers who've been in charge of a team for a reasonable or significant amount of time will always have a footprint or fingerprint on the group that they're working with, and you'll be able to see elements of play that you know that the manager wants to see in his team. So that's obviously what has happened to me in the past with teams I've had. We've had an identity, and that's what I'm hoping that we'll be able to very quickly put into Bradford.
Glyn's come in. For those who may be listening later or reading later who don't know much about Glyn, can you give us a little insight?
Well, Glyn I've known since Welsh youth days, and it's a long time. So he's a very accomplished coach. He's been with me for almost all the clubs I've been involved in, actually at a Premier League level. So he's got a good understanding of the top level, but the attraction for me obviously is his experience of the lower levels in the football pyramid, and he's obviously worked at League One, League Two as well, so that was important in terms of my decision. So I've known him a long time. He's a good guy, accomplished coach, and he will help obviously not only in terms of what we do on the training pitch, but giving me an insight into opposition and in terms of recruitment as well. So his input this year certainly will be valuable.
There's a couple of his strengths then, like recruitment and opposition analysis, and if not, what other strengths does he bring?
Well, I think first and foremost he's a very good coach. He's coached senior players, he's coached youth team players, young development players, so he's got a good understanding of what's required. So I trust him. Clearly, he's someone I've known for a long time and I've got a good relationship with. So, I've not worked with him as him being my number two, but I've no issue or worries about that because, like I said, I've known him for so long.
And looking ahead, a couple of injuries. I'm thinking Jamie Walker's been out recently. Lee Angol, the previous manager, said would hopefully see Lee before the end of the season. How are those two getting on? Some very similar injuries.
Jamie's progressing very well. He's had a couple of sessions. We'll obviously make a decision. Might be a little bit too soon this weekend, but we'll see how he is. We've introduced him slowly this week, and thankfully he hasn't had a reaction as yet. But we'll be cautious with all players come back from injury, because we don't obviously want them to re-injure themselves by virtue of doing too much too soon. So we'll look after him. Lee, we haven't seen anything of, because his injury is going to be a lot longer before it resolves itself, so we're not going to see him for a while. But the rest of the group is reasonably sound, I would say. There's obviously numbers still in the treatment room, but we'll get them back as soon as we can. But like I said, we'll look after them when they come in. We'll try and introduce them slowly, give them the right amount of work to enable them to be sound so that they can go full tilt.
I want to ask you about Alex Gilliard as well. He's been playing more of like a wing-back kind of role recently, and when we opened up the phones after the show, some of the fans were like, wow, he's like a player reborn in that role. What have you made of Alex?
Alex is a very good footballer, first and foremost, and I think that's sometimes when players actively play out of position or in a different position and they do well, usually it's because they're a good footballer and they can adapt and they can handle the football. So irrespective of where they're playing on the pitch, it's the fact, by virtue of being a good player, they're able to cope. So that's the case with Alex. He's able to understand what's required in the role that's asked of him, and I'm quite confident that I feel that if I played him in any number of positions, he'd give a good account of himself, because he's a technically accomplished player. So we're pleased he's here.
There's a number of players, isn't there, in the squad who are out of contract in the summer. A lot of the time at this level, a lot to prove going into the last few weeks of the season. Can you tell that from the group that they're here and they want to prove that point and they want to be here to stay?
Oh yeah, I don't see any marked difference in any of the players' attitudes in terms of the work and trying to be part of what we're doing here, irrespective of what the future holds. For some will remain here, others will move on. That's the reality of this league. But no, the work I've seen up to this point has been excellent. So that's good and that's reassuring. They all want to be part of what we're doing from now to the end of the year at least. So let's tap into that and see where it takes us.
And just lastly, going into Saturday, what have you made of Swindon in your analysis going forward?
They're a good football game. Yeah, another tough one. Yeah, they're doing well at the moment, and they're good football inside. They like to knock it about, and got good individual talent that has an influence on the game. So we'll obviously make the players aware of what they're good at, what they're maybe not so good at, obviously, and those are the points and the areas that we'll hope to exploit. But no, I've been impressed. Obviously, I've watched their games, and we'll continue to watch them right up to the game. And they impress in terms of the way they approach the game. So maybe slightly different from Mansfield, albeit Mansfield at times would play their football when they could. But yeah, another test, slightly different test, but I think that's the case at this level.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for your time.
We spoke to Luke Edgley earlier, and he said one of the key things you've been saying to players is to calm down and take their time with the ball. Is it a case that they've maybe been trying too hard and forcing errors that they don't need to make? Yeah,
I think that's a good point made. I think that's the case. They're so desperate to do well that their work at times can be a little bit frenetic and chaotic, because they are trying hard. They're giving everything they got, and at times it's energy that could be better used. Sometimes they work exceptionally hard, but actually it's in the wrong direction and in the wrong way. So sometimes you just got to take a step back and understand how we can be more effective and more dynamic when it really counts, which is at the top end of the pitch. So if we can obviously be a team that recognises those moments where we can be really dynamic, that's when we'll affect the opposition. If you keep on doing the same things at the same pace, then teams get set and ready for you, and then it becomes difficult to break them down. So it's about being unpredictable, being dynamic and creating problems at the top end.
Do you think that's maybe where your experience working at a high level, you can tell the players how it works there and get them to try?
Well, that's my history. That's what I've been exposed to as a player and as a manager. And as I said when I got the job, I think my skill set is transferable. I have no reason to think that. Other than that, I think there's times when you have to retain possession. You have to start again, and that allows you just to get a better structure and better shape to your team. Sometimes, if you keep on forcing things and trying to make things happen, that the reality is that you've pushing the envelope too much, because it's the percentage of success by constantly going in one area and not maybe using the space that's available to you is there for everyone to see. So I think they understand that, and I'll go back to one of my first points. It's not about changing them overnight, because that's dangerous if I'm honest. So we're trying to do it at the right pace, introduce the right ideas so that they can take them on board in good time, and then be able to use them because they've done the work in training and had that repetition that you need. And when we become a team that does the good things well, and we do things not without thought, because everything we do is with thought, but when we become a team that the majority do things automatically, that's usually a point where you start to become a more progressive and effective team.
Kids.
Okay. As the week's gone on, the players are getting more receptive to what you're trying to bring in. Can you sense that?
Yeah, I'm just gauging on enthusiasm and the quality of the work at the moment. I'm a realist, and I understand once I start picking teams on a regular basis, I might upset a few. So that's the reality of the job. So at the moment, maybe I'm the friend to everybody, but
It's like your honeymoon period.
yeah, quite possibly. But I think they understand that I'm here to try and make them better. I think they understand that there's elements of the way I work that's slightly different to what they've been exposed to of late. So if they've got anything about them, they'll embrace that and try and improve, because every single day we come to training, we want to improve, and that's a prerequisite. So if they embrace the work, that's the end product. There's no doubt they'll improve.
Presumably, if they're doing something a bit different, it's probably more enjoyable, isn't it? Because if it's sort of different to what they've been used to slightly, you know,
Yeah,
it keeps them
I'm
on their toes a little bit.
Listen, we're putting drills on that I'm sure they've seen before, but anybody can put a drill on it. But it's how it's managed, and how the work that you see is monitored, so to speak, in terms of it's got to be it might be the same drill, but it's no good if it's done poorly. So it's about having those demands and standards in terms of work that enables the individual and the team to grow. And that only comes from good quality work. I'm not into quantity. I'm not interested in loads and loads of bad work. That doesn't make any sense. I'm into quality work, good work that will improve players, and if I get what I want on occasions, don't say it too loud, I'll cut things short because I'm happy with what I got. So it's all about quality from my point of view.
And from your point of view, what do you feel you've learned so much in this sort of first few days?
I'm really impressed with the guys in terms of certainly in the game itself. The amount of energy they expend is huge, and that's right across the board. Sometimes, certainly at the top level, you can get some players that will conserve energy to the nth degree, and then you finish the game and you wonder what they were doing. So I haven't seen any of that. Everyone puts a shift in. That's a given, clearly, and I've seen that both in the opposition last week, and I'm sure I'll see it in the opposition this week, along with ourselves. So it's a very honest league in terms of attitude and application. Guys give what they've got, and for the most part, if they do that, I'll be happy with that.
In terms of Swindon, Ben Garner, obviously, his coaching history, sort of high levels. Have you come across him at all?
I don't know Ben personally, but he's had a good career progression, so he's certainly got his team going at the moment. So it'd be interesting to go up against different coaches. That's part of the attraction, part of the interest.
A young coach getting on.
Yeah, and you always hope that young coaches cutting their teeth in the lower level will get opportunities higher up the pyramid, but it's not always the case, unfortunately, because maybe the ownership of certain clubs doesn't allow that, because for whatever reason, we don't seem to be that attractive British coaches, albeit sometimes I feel we're a much better option. But there you go. I wish him well.
And in terms of the game itself, obviously you haven't got so much of sort of the hoopla surrounding it for yourself. Are you perhaps going to, I wouldn't say enjoy it more, but can you sort of, is it going to be easier to focus without so much of the pantomime going on around?
I'm not sure I enjoy it. I'll enjoy it more if we win, clearly. That goes without saying. But the actual day itself, well, I told you after the game, I enjoyed every minute of it, and that's my hope this weekend as well. The emotions and what this game does to you on a match day is great. It's something I've always enjoyed, so looking forward to going through that again.